Hey, Eric.
Hey, Chris.
You want to talk about some of these video games you've put on my desk here before we record this episode?
I've got Objects of Power that I brought to help it inspire us. I've got Growlancer Generations for the PlayStation 2.
Okay.
Most of my experience with Lunar physical copies are the Eternal Blue and Silver Star Story Complete, but they all have that like film strip background on it. They all have like the really thick-ass paper stock on the manual. Which one are you holding right now,
I'm
Chris?
holding Elemental Gearbolt, a game I've heard about 1,000 times but never played.
Open that front cover up.
Is that an RPG?
Elemental Gearbolt is a light gun shooter.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah. I think we've talked about this before, actually.
It is a double CD case, but the entire first case is just for the manual, and that is a thick manual.
That's a thick boy.
It's a holographic cover, too. Check that thing out. But like when you bought a Working Designs game, it felt like you were buying a premium product.
Yeah.
And they kept this the physical quality of holding this shit always felt better than your usual copy of Armored Core 2.
Yes. Wow, cool. Well, thanks for bringing these Objects of Power things we like to leave sitting on the desk to inspire us to say funny things in the podcast.
In case you want to play Gun Griffin Blaze or Project Sylphid, The Lost Planet.
One of these days. All right, Eric, you want to hear some hot sounds I've recorded?
I do.
You mean hot sounds I recorded?
Welcome to Retrograde Amnesia, a comprehensive podcast about classic Japanese role-playing games where we discuss them chapter by chapter, beat by beat. Welcome back to Season 7, where we are covering Lunar, Silver Star Story Complete. My name is Chris. I'm joined by Eric. Hello, Eric.
Hey, Chris. I would go with various other iterations of the Silver Star.
Great. We are also joined by the RealNet, a collective of patrons who are listening to us record live. Hello, RealNet. And once again, thank you for joining us on this journey.
We're also joined by the FakeNet, our post-production robot from the future, who isn't actually British because all robots are from the computer.
Initializing FakeNet.
I wish I were alive so that I would be able to die.
FakeNet sounds a little bit different now, Chris. It's almost like the webpage where we steal the content changed its voice procedure a little bit.
Do you know if you go back and listen to older episodes of this podcast, the FakeNet sounds different in those as well?
There were some advanced drop-down boxes that progressed, but this is the same one, and it sounds different.
Oh, okay. Okay, well.
But we all grow and change, Chris.
Of course. I mean, I sound like shit right now, too, so.
But what's not going to change is this is fundamentally the second half of the first episode, where we continue our trek through Lunar's development history in weird anecdotal stories. Last time we left off on talking about Working Design's text localization changes. Now we're going to jump into the game content changes. And still some more text stuff, too. It's all mixed in there.
How rare is this, to have game content changes?
To the extent that Working Designs did it, again, I don't know. I'm not an expert, but I think they went beyond the pale in some cases.
Really?
Like we'll learn why, but Final Fantasy II, right, was made much easier for American audiences, correct?
Yes, it was based on the Final Fantasy IV Easy Type, I think is what it was called in Japan. So, yeah, I mean, that is not...
Stuff like that did happen, but Working Designs...
the actual ass Super Mario Brothers 2 never came out here until Lost Levels.
Oh, right, yeah.
Things like that.
Well, that's not necessarily a change. That's just, we can't fucking sell this.
Exactly, yes.
Of course, it's more difficult to forgive Working Design's quest to fundamentally alter how some of their games performed in the hands of their players. Working Designs didn't just localize text, their programmers changed key functions of how their games operated. We're going to go over the changes Working Designs made to Silver Star Story in the cut content section of this episode. But in the meantime, please enjoy this anecdote about one of Working Design's more infamous alterations. The next clip is from Retronauts Live 46, Working Designs with Victor Ireland. It was published in April 2012. You'll get to hear Victor lay out the reality of trying to sell video games in North America in the 90s. In this clip, he's talking specifically about Silhouette Mirage, but I think it broadly applies to Working Design's choices as a whole.
Well, I don't know, extensive, but yeah, it did change the gameplay. The reason for it was that at that time, retail was trying out controversial changes as well, where EB had a policy where you could bring a game back for any reason and get a full refund. And so short games, shooters, you could finish quickly and people didn't have any incentive to play again to get a better score. They didn't care. they basically were getting free rentals, and the publishers were paying for it. The gameplay is different. Some people don't like it. Some people didn't notice. But the reason we did it was so that we wouldn't be getting a whole bunch of free rentals back from EB.
I have to admit, I remember doing that. You had 7 days. You
got a free rental.
I took advantage of it.
You could return an open game within 7 days.
Yeah, well, imagine being the publisher and you're getting back 30,000 games because you've had 30,000 free rentals or whatever. It was a crazy situation.
Again, Victor was, first off, Chris, did you ever do that in EB?
I never did that. I was an ethical consumer when I was a child.
Ethics in game consumption.
Yes.
Victor was specifically talking about Silhouette Mirage, but that game only came out in North America 6 months after Silver Star Story Complete. You can extrapolate what that means for other games Working Designs published. From an artistic standpoint, I think this safely falls under egregious bullshit, but you can still understand the decision. Working Designs did not want to go out of business, and doing this shit to those games was the only way Working Designs felt like it could make a profit. What Working Designs did to Lunar absolutely made the game longer and increased its perceived value. Chris, perhaps you're also wondering if the original developers of these games had an opinion about the adjustments Victor made at Working Designs. Good news. In 2016, Quentin H. over at Operation Rainfall asked Victor Ireland a version of this very question, and I've edited Victor's response down a bit, removing the parts where he talks about Class of Heroes 2, which he was promoting at the time. Quentin asked, with the change of the difficulty of Popful Mail or adding an analog support for some of the games, how much say or veto power does the original developer in Japan have over these changes? Victor replied,
Generally speaking, they couldn't care less. They're happy that we're doing... I shouldn't say that. They, generally speaking, trust what we're doing as long as you're making a positive impact on the game. Adding the extra difficulty, basically, if it will help the game in the US, they're happy. They're fine with that.
I read that as they don't care as long as they're getting paid.
I agree with that, but I would imagine that there are probably some people who hold some value in the way their game was designed and would not want that to be
compromised,
fucked with, but...
So you can take Victor's word for it on that. And the next part has nothing to do with Lunar, but I wanted to include it here because I can't believe this shit. Victor goes on to say,
the only time we've ever had an issue where we had to take something out that we did was with double entendres in Alundra. We put some pretty hardcore double entendres in there, and Sony US was like, wow, really? They said, you definitely should check this with Sony Japan, who we had licensed it from. And Sony Japan, were like, well, we understand that you're going for what you're going for. It is funny, but you should probably take them out. And so there are 2 double entendres that are in the press versions of Alundra. Is it Alundra or Lundra? Alundra. And in fact, John Ricciardi, he was reviewing for, I think, 1UP maybe. I don't know. GM. One of the game magazines at the time. He actually emailed me and said, dude, is this really in the retail release? Is this going in the retail release? And I was like, yeah, sure. It's like, I can't believe that it came up, and that's what I was reading. And yeah, apparently it was a little too controversial for the developer.
Had you ever heard of this at the time?
No.
He said that's the only time we've ever put something in or done something that the Japanese developers were like, you should probably take it out.
So do we know what it is?
I've got a screenshot here of it and the translation before it. The character Maya, I haven't played Alundra, I'm sorry. Mia, she says,
you're lucky I give good head, lover boy. Most girls would ask that you cough up a ring first.
That would be corrected to, I told you I'd give you a head start in the game that shipped. So okay. It was a play on the word head. Give good head. That was cut from the fucking game. But there's, the protos leaked. The screenshot of this is out there. Chris,
I think maybe I have seen that before, but I thought it was just some meme or something.
No, that was real. That happened. Chris, if we ever get around to Popful Mail on our Patreon streams, I also hope and don't hope we get to the part where an NPC asked if we're the R word. Or the part where Gaul calls someone a turd-smoking coward.
Oh. Now, turd-smoking coward I can get down with.
That's all right. I just can't believe, if my video game called me a turd-smoking coward when I was 9.
Well.
Perhaps we can play Albert Odyssey, where an NPC father complains about their kid speaking in Ebonics, and the kid says,
yo, what you be doing in my crib, homeboy? I asked you a question.
Chris said that, not me.
I knew that was are you trying to, yeah.
It's even possible we'll flip through the Ark the Lad collection manual and reach the chapter on sucking dick.
What?
There's a chapter in the manual for Ark the Lad called Sucking Dick.
Okay, is there a character named Dick who sucks?
Yes.
Okay.
The next block of information is from an interview with Rudo of LunarNet at E399. When asked how much Silver Star Story Complete had in common with the original Sega CD game.
Well, in Lunar Silver Star Story, the text was changed about 80% from the Sega CD version. Some of the text was changed completely, and there was also a lot of stuff added on top of that. So there was tons of text, tons of changes, and it was a nightmare to test and debug. I mean, it's worth it in the end, but while we're doing it, it's like, is this ever going to end?
In another interview with Rudo and Weber conducted at E398, when asked about what kind of dialogue was being changed from the Sega CD version, Victor said,
"Some will be updated because there are some sort of time-sensitive jokes. My favorite one is the Shannen Doherty thing. Shannen Doherty is a has-been, so we have to take that out."
Chris, I was curious about a sick Shannen Doherty reference, so I went through the Sega CD script. And when looking for it, I found it at Junker HQ, which is normally a Snatcher fan site where Lunar's script was broken up into 57 different notepad files. Buddy, I went looking and I found it. At some point, somebody in the game says,
"Hey, Alex, you hunky guy, I see you ditched the Shannen. Doherty type girl. Doherty type girl."
No, they spelled it wrong in the game.
Okay. "How about you date me instead?"
That's an NPC in Saith later in the game.
Oh.
Most of this interview was Rudo asking about a game called Detonator Gauntlet, which Working Designs was making at the time. It was the localized release of Epic-A-Stella. Chris, have you ever heard of Epic-A-Stella or Detonator Gauntlet?
I have not heard of Detonator Gauntlet. I feel like Detonator Gauntlet is a...
Midway got upset at the use of Gauntlet, and the game was renamed Vanguard Bandits before its North American release.
Oh, Vanguard Bandits. I've heard of that because I think, isn't it advertised in the manual or something?
Most likely.
Yeah.
Vanguard Bandits isn't a bad name, but fucking Detonator Gauntlet goes hard.
Yeah, Detonator Gauntlet goes very hard. I don't know how you could top that.
Also in this interview, Vic says they lost a ton of money on Popful Mail. Unrelated, Chris, did you know Popful Mail was almost retooled into Sister Sonic before its release?
No, I don't even know what Popful Mail is.
It's a neat little platformer type game.
Oh, okay.
For Sega CD. We'll probably play it on stream soon.
At patreon.com/retroam.
Originally, apparently, Silver Star Story Complete was going to include music from the Sega CD version. Rudo asked Vic why this was no longer the case, and Victor replied,
"Didn't work. No memory. We added so many features to this game. Dual shock, analog, memory support. The thing about Lunar that's different from all other RPGs, well, most PlayStation RPGs use DLL.
Dynamic Link Library.
They pull in stuff as they need it. In Lunar, the whole system is in memory all the time. That's why the loads are real short. In the battles, that's really cool, but it leaves you with very little memory to do anything, and we couldn't change the whole system. And to rip the music out and replace it with stuff that required more samples of a different kind, the polyphony was much greater on the original. It was impossible to do so, and I really wanted to do it."
Next interview source is from the Making of Lunar Disc.
Mm-hmm.
It's included with the game. You can listen to Working Design's VP of Marketing, Don Shirley, explain the importance of changing the original text to better suit American pop culture.
We pretty much take the main plot points, throw away the rest of it, and write it in an American style with a bunch of cultural references that people can relate to. Even though it's set in this mystical world, you still have these pop cultural references that allow you to get an attachment to the characters. And people tend to get more involved in something that they can relate to.
Pop culture references to make me more attached to the character.
Yeah. So if they make a sick Bill Clinton joke, it'll make you be like, "Oh, well, I know about Bill Clinton."
I don't buy it.
You don't think it's...
No, I think good writing makes you attached to a character. I mean, I do think that kind of stuff can make things more readable and thus make games more approachable and make the dialogue flow better and contribute to your enjoyment of the game. But like, I don't think you need to go that far when you say stuff like that. It just sounds like you wanted to do it.
No, I agree. Yeah, something you wanted to try. As an extension of that, you can hear Victor explain why they chose to make the editorial decision for the character Might to smell like actual poop from a butt.
We added some personality to some of the characters, like Might's lab. You had this guy in this tower, this inventor, and he's all up in this tower. And you have to go this huge thing to get this maze to get up there. And we're like, well, why is he so isolated? You know, he's like a hermit, a recluse. And so in the U.S. version, which wasn't in the Japanese one, we had him suffering from tremendous body odor. So that's why he had to be isolated. And so he makes comments of that ilk.
You're trespassing. Go away.
So they made him fart because he's isolated.
Is that appropriate? Is that important? Was that necessary? Did it resonate with young you if he farts in the fucking video game?
I don't think it's an egregious like moment of censorship or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
No, it's not necessary. Like, did they have to make old man Balthazar in Xenogears smell like shit?
They didn't have to. Did he smell like shit?
No, they didn't.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, that was an impactful character on us as we discussed that game. Like, he made a lot of sense. We still use the phrase myths and legends today from Old Man Bao. And that's not because he smells like shit or because he had any sort of...
because he had a skull collection.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. That was like something that was not written in text.
Yeah.
The guy just fucking had skulls. And actually, he did explain the skulls, didn't he? Like the evolutionary thing. And he used the phrase myths and legends. And the writing was good. The localization in that scene, to my recollection, was pretty good. That gave us an attachment to that character, not because he makes fart noises. I like farts, okay?
I do too. I think it's very funny that clip ended with a fart noise.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's great, but like...
No, you articulated your point. That's one of the most well-composed things you've said all evening.
Oh, thank you. I don't know how to process that. I'm not well composed today, Eric. Okay, I understand that. I ran 10 miles today.
Buddy, I ran 17. Come on.
There's a difference between me running 10 miles and you running 17.
Tim Trizpatch from Working Designs is also in this documentary. Tim describes himself as a professional hacker, and he looks exactly like you expect a professional hacker to look in 1998.
See, I have sunglasses on.
Look it up.
Okay. Right now?
Sure. Why not?
Okay. He's not wearing glasses in this picture from Sega16.com. But he does have a middle part.
Okay, yeah, he just looks like he'd be in the Lone Gunman from X-Files. Complimentary.
Sure.
Here you can listen to Tim talk about the steps he had to take to crunch English text into dialogue boxes.
I'm sort of a professional hacker, right? They've already written the code, but it doesn't really work for English. They have, the Japanese character set has thousands, tens of thousands of characters, whereas in English we have a relatively small defined set of characters, but the words tend to be longer because it takes more characters to express a thought. They gave us a space of 38K to actually put all the text for a particular section of the game, and the English text can get up to 72K in size, so I had to write data compression to squish that text down so it would actually fit into memory. And that's been a major battle for me.
So Working Designs was really getting in there and doing legit work to alter the code, both for the dialogue box text and the gameplay.
I've heard localizers talk about the character limits in the past in other games, I think maybe for Chrono Trigger.
Yeah.
And that was not, they were not afforded the opportunity to like actually modify the game.
They didn't have a Tim.
They just had to use
the existing space.
They had to do their best, yes.
I looked up Tim, and in 2016, he made Rhythm Core Alpha 2 for 3DS. It's a music creation game. Tim is also active on Instagram, and I mean this as a compliment, but he still looks like that. He looks like he does in the Lunar video, only older. Tim is awesome.
Love you, Tim.
Also, if you watch that making a video, there's a bunch of footage of the actors recording their lines from the game, which is interesting. So as a coda this section, perhaps you're wondering why Working Designs closed its doors in 2005. At that point, they had released 3 games to the PlayStation 2. They launched the system in North America with Gun Griffin Blaze, and then published Game Art's Sylphie the Lost Planet in spring 2001. And then Working Designs tried to publish Growlancer 3 in 2003. Let's go back to Retronauts Live 46 from April 2012 with Bob Mackey, Jeremy Parrish, and Christian Nutt when they shot the shit with Victor for an hour. And you can hear Victor explain to Bob what happened when Sony's third-party relations department didn't like the look of Growlancer.
Basically, it amounted to we had a good relationship with our account manager at Sony, and we had a good relationship actually with all of our account managers for NEC, TurboGrafx, for Sega CD, the whole time. Basically, it's an issue of hindsight's 2020. We should have gotten concrete approval for the titles before we did the licensing. But the way we had always worked till then is we did the titles, did the licenses, and as long as they met a certain standard of quality, the approval was pretty much guaranteed. And because our account manager had left at Sony and new management came in that really weren't gamers and didn't play games and didn't have anything to judge a game on other than the graphics, those rules went out the window. So they would look at our games and they'd be like, this is totally not PlayStation 2 level graphics. It's like, no, but it's Growlancer. I mean, we're talking Growlancer. This is a fantastic game. The battle system was innovative. It's a great game. And that didn't matter. So we were denied right for E3. And that was terrible because we had all this promotional stuff printed and banners, and we were ready to show it. And we had to black out the PlayStation 2 on all of them, so we couldn't put a platform on it. It was just terrible.
Oh, wow.
It was a terrible E3. Then we had to fight for the next 18 months or so to try to match sort of nebulous demands to make it look better. But the kind of game it would never look better than a certain kind of look.
Right.
And so we tried high-res sprites, and they took up too much memory, and they slowed it down, and we did all this work. And the compromise was eventually, okay, if you put both the games together, you can release it. Well, the problem with that is that the royalty situation was negotiated as 2 separate titles. So we were now going to do half the sales with twice the cost to the IP holder. So instantly it became a money loser. But at that point, it was, how can we lose as little money as possible rather than how can we lose everything?
And that ended up being their final published game. And like, I think there's like 3 different instances of Victor and Working Designs getting fucked because an executive says, this game doesn't look next gen enough for us.
Just because it wouldn't look good in a magazine spread.
Yeah, in a magazine spread or, alongside anything else and making full use of the Emotion engine.
Yeah, Emotion engine. Great.
Working Designs was also working on Mystical Ninja Goemon Zero at the time, and their localization of that Goemon game actually leaked a few years ago. So there was a secret Working Designs game that came out.
Love hitting guys with pipes.
Finally, yeah, that's in a lot of games. We have a quote from a GameSpot interview with Victor in 2005 conducted by Brendan Sinclair. He said, in your message board post, you said that because people bought Working Designs games and showed support for these things, we have deluxe packs, pack-in soundtracks, better packaging, great hint guides, and better localizations in general. Is that the extent of Working Designs' legacy? Victor replied,
I think better localizations in general is the most important contribution Working Designs made. Once people played a Working Designs role-playing game, no matter what they thought about the pop culture stuff that was packed into the early games, it changed them. They saw how moving and engaging an RPG could be when written in their native language as well.
And yeah, better localizations in general works as a thing too. I think people like Alexander O. Smith, Richard Honeywood, and Jeremy Blaustein should also be included in that conversation, but Working Designs was absolutely part of that movement.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to go through some content cut from the Sega CD release and mostly the PS1 release. For the Sega CD game, according to the Cutting Room Floor, a website on the internet, only 6 enemies, mostly mid and late game bosses, had their stats adjusted in the original Sega CD version. Donations at shrines were also raised from 10 silver to 100 silver in that game.
It also appears that the US version intended to raise the cost of donating at the shrine near Red Dragon's Cave to 200 silver. Unfortunately, Hiroyuki Koyama neglected to consider that the money is subtracted from the player's total by making the base cost negative and then performing an 8-bit signed addition. Hackers, man. When 200 is interpreted as an 8-bit signed integer, it becomes negative 56. Thus, the game makes that negative, and it winds up giving the player 56 silver with each donation instead of taking it away.
So you get money each time you donate. An area with the hexagram tile set was adjusted to turn the hexagram to the fucking Starfleet symbol. And also, Zenobia used to have clearly defined nipples on her breasts, which were, of course, denippled in the localization.
They took out my nipple bones.
There's also a nude shot of Luna and a yellow background on the ending that was edited, like with Proto-Photoshop Dodge tool, to not have any observable nudity.
Okay.
Chris, are you sad you won't be able to see Luna nude in your Sega CD release?
Yes, I'm very sad.
Chris, what is Luna's age? Don't answer that. Silver Star Story complete. The Cutting Room Floor, as always, has documented content that it was either cut by Game Arts or content that was adjusted by Working Designs during Lunar's localization. I've never seen something like this, but Lunar's page on the Cutting Room Floor starts off with a quote from Yoichi Miyagi, CEO of Game Arts. It's taken from Working Designs' Lunar Strategy Guide. It says, question, what's your greatest concern when one of your games is translated for the US market? He answers,
the dialogue. The only English I know is the English I learned at school, so I cannot tell if minor nuances come through or not. Even in Japanese, we are very sensitive about the wording we use. We rewrite many, many times. One word in a scenario can move people's hearts. Therefore, we need a translator who is a genius.
Chris, is Victor Ireland a genius?
I would say, based on reading the response from the CEO of Game Arts and knowing what we know about how Victor approached these localizations, Victor Ireland is a nincompoop, right?
Excellent. That is a word that I think this game uses.
Okay.
First off, the modifications in localization is enemy stats.
Yeah, with few exceptions, regular enemies have a 45% higher attack. That's a lot.
That's fucking crazy.
Give out 14% less experience and 10% less silver and have 10% less HP.
That's a change they made from the Japanese version to the US version.
And this is because of the 7-day...
Ostensibly. I mean, again, that was for Silhouette Mirage, but I can't imagine, just to make the... Because Lunar, like, even this version, my first playthrough was like 24 hours back in the day, which compared to what it was going up against, Final Fantasy 7, 8, shit like that.
Yeah. It's really interesting because, like, is this the type of game somebody would...
I feel like that was something that was pointed out in reviews, was how long was this game going to take?
Oh, yeah.
Then and now.
Yeah.
The Cutting Room Floor also provides an entire chart of adjustments for every single enemy in the game. Bosses were also boosted, but in a way that scales more with Alex's level. Despite the enemies being much harder, experience won from their battles remains identical. The ending of the game was also drastically, infamously changed. I would consider going through that change to be a spoiler, and I would also consider that change to be egregious, so we'll burn that bridge down when we get there.
I did not actually know this.
Do you know what it is now?
No.
I'll delete it.
No, I don't want to know.
Okay, good. Never mind.
Yeah.
We'll keep Chris pure.
Yeah.
It also changed.
The amount of silver contained in all treasure chests is halved in the US version.
Did you know any of this shit, by the way, before this?
I knew that the game was made more difficult, but I did not know specifically how it was done.
Please go on.
Yes. Jessica's escape litany spell to warp out of dungeon costs 1 MP in the Japanese version, but costs 20 MP in the US version. That fucking sucks. Like, if I use this next cure spell, then I'm fucked. There's a short puzzle at the beginning of Might's Tower where 4 doors have to be entered in a particular sequence in order to proceed. In the Japanese version, the correct sequence is simply given by a note on the wall. The US version very deliberately removes a solution from the game, leaving the player to randomly try permutations until they stumble across the right one. That is fucked.
Isn't that bad? Isn't that why do that?
That is like the antithesis of designing a video game, right?
Yeah.
Just making people do random things.
Castlevania 2?
Yeah. In the Japanese version, the solution to the last color puzzle in the Goddess Tower is given by the order of the colors in the dialogue that shows up at the start of the floor. The US version alters the dialogue so that the order of the colors no longer corresponds to the solution of the puzzle. That seems mean also.
Bromide locations have been changed to places that don't make any sense. The included manual tells you to buy the not included strategy guide to find them all. The front cover of that strategy guide, the very first line is,
"Exclusive! Find all the bromides."
In the Japanese version, the Rememberizer item to view FMVs is always available as a free gift from Ramus. In the US version, it's available for free up to a certain point in the plot, but after that it has to be bought from his store during the epilogue for 65,000 silver. Buying it leaves the inventory of Ramus' store empty. The game engine wasn't designed to do this, leading to glitches where trying to buy the non-existent stock will result in random items popping into the inventory.
Great.
On the positive end, the US version adds support for memory cards in both slots and allows for 4 saves per card instead of 3. The US version also supports analog controllers and adds optional rumble. That's all for our current localization talk, Chris. Let's go over promotional media.
Great.
Lunar the Silver Star. This is for the Sega CD version. First up, we have Working Design's original print ad for the Sega CD release. You may have found it in game magazines. Chris, read me the tagline.
Sega CD owners asked, we listen. Now it's here. Lunar the Silver Star.
Below that is art of all the game's characters. 5 screenshots, 2 of which are of anime cutscenes along with Working Design's logo and their memorable slogan, "Our games go to 11."
Oh, they sure do.
Do you enjoy, what is that a reference to? This is...
Turn my shit up? What?
No, what's the fucking band? The fake band documentary.
Spinal Tap.
This is Spinal Tap. Yeah,
Yes.
The dial goes to 11. On the left side is more marketing copy.
True role-playing. CD sound. Hot animation.
Chris, would that have sold you on Lunar in late 1993?
True role-playing? Yeah, I was already in this circle in 1993, right?
Did you know what anime was at that point?
No. No.
Were you into RPGs then?
Yes.
Did you know anyone with a Sega CD? We've already been over that.
My cousin, yes. But I never knew about the existence of this game until the PS1.
Until that came out?
Release came out. But yeah, I was into the early Final Fantasy and Dragon Warrior games.
When did you first get a CD player and start replacing your Pearl Jam tapes?
I never had any tapes.
Never had any tapes at all?
No.
Wow.
Didn't have any tapes.
That's fucked up.
Yeah. I got a CD player. My first album, I don't know what year this was, but my first album that I purchased was Soundgarden Super Unknown.
That's good. That's an excellent origin story.
Yes. My second purchase was Stone Temple Pilots Purple, also an excellent album. And my third CD I ever purchased was the debut album from the band Candlebox.
Okay. That slots in with the same time period. Good job, man.
Yeah, thanks.
Way to go. A man of taste.
I've still enjoyed 2 of those albums.
You know what my first CD was?
Weird Al.
Ace of Base. Moving on. Mega CD Lunar got a 15-second television commercial in Japan. Thanks to RV on YouTube, you can hear that audio, and if you understand Japanese, maybe you can even comprehend it.
君が守りたいのは一体何ですか？ドラマチック RPG ルナメガ CD から。
Now we're going to move on to Lunar Silver Star Story Complete Promotional Media.
Yeah.
2-page magazine ad. It's got a fully kitted out Luna and Alex on each page, which I guess is a spoiler. Working Design's classic film strip screenshots off-center and on the left. Across the top is a huge headline from EGM.
One of the year's must-play RPGs.
More press lines on the left page.
A must-buy for RPGers.
Also from EGM.
Wonderfully illustrated in pure anime style.
From PSM and...
A huge epic quest.
From the official PlayStation Magazine. And finally...
A godsend.
From Gamers Republic. The bottom right next to that iconic pink Working Designs logo is a picture of a list of all the shit you get in the box, including 2 game discs, a soundtrack CD, and a making of CD. Top of all that is the art book and cloth map. Post-release, this game has a fucked up magazine ad. I can only find one scan of this ad, which is over at RPG Fan, and it's so wild that it feels like it could be fake, but both S.C.R.O.T.A.L and Neat in the real net seem to have tangible memories of seeing this ad with their real-life eyes. It's a one-page ad with the Lunar sword logo in the background. Its huge text states in the magazine ad,
the most talked about, most satisfying, most magical, most romantic, most engrossing, most interesting, most recommended RPG of 1999 will gain one final title on January 1st, 2000. Most hard to find. The rest is in small print.
Again, it's very small print. I had to fucking increase text size to read and transcribe this.
On that day, sales to retail of Lunar Silver Star Story of the PlayStation will cease forever. The end. Omega time. Sales have far exceeded our expectations, and being the mentally challenged non-NBA gaming types that we are, we thought it would be kind of cool to say enough. All the cool people that know what's up have already bought the game anyway, had the experience, already listening to the free soundtrack and fondling the other free stuff right now, laughing at the ignoramuses, or is that ignorami? We can't remember, who still call anime that freaky speed racer stuff. Why not keep this game a little bit of secret and make the penny pinchers who haven't bought it yet end up paying too much on eBay when they realize the terrible mistake they've made? So if you think passing on the galleon experience has something to do with a floating Spanish doodads, you're definitely missing the boat. In that case, about all we can offer you is, by way of consolation, is ignorance is bliss. Keep your damn tainted Burger Emporium earned money, you freaking spaz. You're not worthy. And don't count on your mama saving your sorry butt with her awesome foresight, because she already spent the family dough on Wonder Bread and Kool-Aid. Bon appetit. What the fuck did I just read?
That's real. I think that's real. It's like written in the style of someone who would localize this game. I think that's real.
Well, it's real to me, damn it.
Anyway, the PlayStation version got another 15-second commercial in Japan, and it's as weird as hell. An older man, a farmer, is shown in his field on a hot day. He yanks a daikon radish out of the ground, hoists it over his head, and screams. An image of Alex holding a sword high above his head is superimposed and then flashed over this guy as he screams his lungs out. Take a listen.
よいしょ剣を抜いて冒険の世界へファンタジック RPG ルナシルバースターストーリールナ
Silver Star Story also had a demo disc in North America. It was given away as a pre-order bonus starting in April of 99.
Yes, I had this bad boy.
You did?
Yeah.
Wow, I hadn't pre-ordered a game ever at this point. Like Dreamcast was the first thing I pre-ordered.
Yeah.
Do you remember the disc at all? Before we go over what's on the disc?
Do I remember the disc?
Like playing it? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I remember.
I guess we'll do that
it's what helped sold me on the game, yeah.
The front of the disc sleeve is close to identical to the box art, while the rear has Alex and Luna kissing against the shape of a blue planet.
Love kissing.
It also has this text. With this sampler, you are about to experience a tantalizing taste of what will become one of the most unforgettable role-playing experiences of your life. Enjoy and tell a friend. I looked up a Let's Play the Demo CD by Def Sonic Gaming on YouTube, and it looks like it goes all the way from the start of the game to the boat ride to Maribia. It's a decent chunk. It would have to be a first for console games. You could use your save data from the demo in the real game.
Yeah, I was wondering if that was a false memory for me.
It was real.
It was real.
It was real.
But I do remember going back and starting it over, though.
Just because
I think there was a long gap between.
There was also the demo had a level cap of 12.
Yeah.
Literature, contemporary reviews of the original Lunar on Sega CD. First we go to Game Fan, Volume 2, Issue 1, December of 93. The one with fucking Cybermorph on the cover. Reviews on page 28, where the Inquirer said,
Working Designs has translated the greatest RPG of all time for the Sega CD and is truly amazing. Prepare to be blown away by RPG Heaven.
Hell yeah.
I love when RPG Heaven blows me away.
That's right.
It's great. I love being blown by it.
In heaven. Kay Lee also added that Lunar is...
like a Sega CD version of Final Fantasy II.
Chris, is that true?
If we're talking about Final Fantasy IV, then probably, yeah.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
We are. Scores 98, 97, 95, 95 from all four reviewers.
Cool.
Game Pro, January 94, the one with Mortal Kombat 2 on the cover. On page 252 in Role Player's Realm, the area of the magazine where Game Pro walled off all of the JRPG shit, Lawrence of Arabia called Silver Star.
Just what the JRPG doctor ordered.
Lawrence thought the music and sound was
Grammy award-winning stuff.
He concluded by saying,
if you can't wait to explore other worlds and other lives, pick up Lunar and fly yourself to the moon.
Chris, you know, a line like that is good for a 4.5 in graphics, a 5 in sound, a 4 in control, and a 4.5 in fun factor. And you know that challenge is intermediate.
I don't agree with that. Challenge was higher than intermediate. High intermediate, maybe.
EGM, December 93, the one with Eternal Champions on the cover. On page 324, Chris, remember 400-page gaming magazine Christmas issues?
Yeah.
That shit was actually as good as Christmas. Quote,
the story is very involving with its unique mix of drama and humor and will keep you playing for hours on end. The music is very symphonic. The graphics are some of the best ever, with awesome monsters and villains. This is a fantastic CD adventure.
Quality of game writing was not great in 94.
No.
No score. I went through 5 months from November 93 to April of 94, and I could not find review crew scores for Lunar. Wikipedia cites the 7.75 from the 1999 video game buyer's guide from EGM, so I don't know where they got that score.
Sure.
Contemporary reviews for Silver Star Story Complete. Game Pro, July 1999. Chris, if you haven't looked at it yet, what do you expect to be on the cover of Game Pro in July of 99?
Tom Brady.
Tom Brady was not on the scene until 2001, but I appreciate that is roughly the same era.
Okay.
He was in
Wayne Gretzky.
Yeah, there you go. The great one. No, it's the one with Stone Cold giving a stunner to The Rock.
Oh, okay. Well, that was definitely a 1999 thing, right?
It was the Attitude Era. On page 102, still in the Role Player's Realm, you can read where Scary Larry gave Silver Star Complete a 3 in graphics, a 3 in sound, a 3 in controls, and a 2.5 in fun factor. Motherfucking Larry said,
even though Lunar is called a complete RPG, diehards and fans of the Lunar series will beg to differ.
Larry was angry that Eternal Blue was not included in this complete package. Star Ocean 2 got a much better review from Boba Fett on the next page.
Oh.
EGM, July 99. What do you think's on the cover of that?
The Undertaker.
No, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Okay.
On page 129, you'll find 4 capsulized reviews for Lunar Silver Star Story Complete. John Ricciardi, now doing game localization with 8.4, gave it a 9 out of 10. Showcasing Working Design's efforts, John called Lunar
easily the most well-written RPG I've ever played.
Crispin Boyer gave it a 9, saying,
Lunar's plot, writing, and voice acting are about the best you'll find.
Chi Chow gave it an 8.5, and Player One podcast Chris Johnston gave it a 9.5. Lunar Silver Star Story Complete was EGM's co-game of the month for July of 99. Chris, it's July of 99. What other game was co-game of the month?
This is July 99.
What was the media event of 1999? Not for games, but for movies.
Okay, I can do this. For movies.
You would have seen it the week it came out, probably. I can't guarantee that, but I think you would have.
Jedi Power Battles.
You're so close.
Damn it.
It's episode 1 Racer.
Okay, pretty good.
Anyway, that's why I switched from GamePro to EGM. GameSpot, a website, Peter Bartholow gave Silver Star Story Complete a 7.6. Peter said,
Lunar Complete is a must-buy for fans of the series, as well as an excellent introduction to this landmark RPG series. Lunar may not have modern aesthetics, but its gameplay and story are among the best of any RPG of any era.
Peter also said,
the text is for the most part excellent and doesn't rely too heavily on Working Design's traditionally puerile humor. Puerile?
Gross, fecal,
yes,
juvenile. Okay. Finally, the IGN review, the Imagine Games Network, Craig Harris gave it a 7.5 out of 10. Craig said,
this is one hell of a package, people. When Working Designs releases a product, it goes the extra mile to make sure you're getting the bang for your buck.
I think Craig read the back of the marketing copy that said our games go to 11. Mm-hmm. Craig, like a lot of us, also complained about how long this thing took to come out. Contemporary reviews for Silver Star Harmony, the PSP version. I know we said we weren't going to talk about it much, but I was looking at the Metacritic page for the original PSP release, and what's this? Digital Chumps gave it an 8 out of 10. Their reviewer said,
Lunar is the video game equivalent of a summer vacation. It's free of complication, full of carefree fun, over before you know it, and easily lends itself to nostalgia.
That's some pretty shit writing, Chris. I wonder who wrote that.
Yeah, I wonder if that was...
it's not on the page.
Checking my page here. Oh, yep. I found it.
Who's it?
It's written by Eric.
That's me. Yeah, I'm fine with that, but I'd like to ask my 26-year-old 2010 self, what does easily lends itself to nostalgia mean?
it means that you're going to have a nostalgia hit when you pick it up 20 years later.
And it's bad writing.
It is. It's not
terrible.
great. It's fine.
Modern takes. There's only one here, Chris. In December of 2019, right before everything in the world went to total shit, actual friend of the show, Aiden Mower, freelanced a piece for Silver Star Story for EGM Now, a website on the internet. It's titled, Why Lunar Silver Star Story Complete Remains One of the Best JRPGs Ever. Of the original game, Aiden said,
But there's also a broader answer, because Lunar Silver Star Story Complete, like the Sega CD original, encapsulated the bright and vibrant style of 16-bit Japanese RPGs. It's like a Saturday morning cartoon, effervescent and earnest, and more concerned with adventure and kindness than the grittiness and anti-heroes of some of its most popular contemporaries.
I know that guy. He was on our podcast.
Look up that episode for his book, Fight Magic Items.
Yes.
The word, I stole his word there, kindness over grittiness is, I think, a major thing that this game had that other games of its type did not necessarily feature. Do you agree?
I agree with that. Yeah, I'm still not deep into the game yet, but yeah, I agree with it. It does have that vibe. There's no dark, shadowy figures. You know what I mean? Early on.
Early on, for sure. It's more carefree. Later in the piece, Aiden also said,
From the moment I saw its oversized cardboard box, I knew Lunar Silver Star Story Complete was different. Its gorgeous embossed cover flipped open to reveal more details about the game, which came alongside a hardbound instruction manual full of more art, interviews with the creators, localization notes, and a walkthrough of the game's early hours. Just opening the box felt like a high-quality experience, and that feeling continued as you were greeted by the game's fully animated opening movie. These sorts of collector's editions are common now, but nobody was doing them in 1999.
Physical media, game box, and literature, jumping on from Aiden's point.
Can I hold my box while you're doing this?
You can. Look at your box.
Okay.
Feel the embossed cover. So as Aiden said, Working Designs more or less pioneered the special edition of the console game. As far back as their work on Sega CD, the paper stock of their manuals and their embossed reflective covers of the front page stood apart from literally everything else on the console. On the Saturn specifically, only Working Designs games had the reflective, shiny Sega Saturn text falling down the left side of the manual. Even their contract work on the Sega Ages compilation featured that special iridescent silver font. Buying a Working Designs game automatically felt special because all the shit inside the physical case felt like a premium product. Even my dumbass kid brain could feel that, and I knew that it was different from everything else. Chris, we can hear Victor Ireland talk about some of this process on that episode of Retronauts Live. I've edited this clip down a bit, but here's what Victor had to say about making some of the stuff for the North American market.
Lunar had foil stamping on the Sega CD.
Yeah, the Sega CD ones, they had like the quality of the booklets you did was really nice. It was like this heavy cardstock with embossing and foil stamping, and then there were the
improved.
There were the
we were learning
variant disc images.
But as the stuff got better, that was sort of a sign that we were doing it ourselves because we took over publication. As a matter of fact, a lot of the rules at Sony changed because of us pushing it, saying, "Look, you guys can't do this as well as we can. You don't care at the level that we care. You just want to get the stuff out in a certain, easy manner." So we sort of took over, and they were, they changed the rules basically for us.
I remember talking to you about this. Is so nerdy. I remember talking to you about this on Usenet, because the Japanese PlayStation 1 games had full color disc labels, and they were amazing. And then the US ones didn't. They were like one, and this is back when things like this would really, set my
They were just
on
like
edge.
silkscreen looking.
Yeah,
things.
black.
Yeah.
I just played through Final Fantasy Tactics, and I was looking at the super boring, like flat black, black and silver disc. Like now there's,
Matter of fact, a little geeky side point: the disc label used in test runs for Sony to do full color disc labels was Dragon Force.
Oh,
They
nice.
asked us for the art so that they could do test runs to do it for themselves, and we gave them the Dragon Force art. So the first tests that were done in color on PlayStation disc were for a Saturn game.
Cool.
Did you pick up any of that when you were did that appeal? Look at the fucking cover for Elemental Gearbolt. If you saw that on the shelf with it reflecting at you, that shit, and the fact that Lunar had actual art on the disc and it wasn't a silver disc, did you notice any of that stuff back in the day?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, I don't think that I was cognizant of the fact that I recognized it. Yeah, but box art did go a long way back then.
Yeah.
Vagrant Story.
Well, box art and disc art. There was art on the fucking disc. That wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
But Vagrant Story, yeah.
I just remember seeing Vagrant Story on the wall and being like, and with the Square Soft logo there, and being like, oh, look at this shit.
I saw Vagrant Story and thought that was a hell of a haircut.
Question about the packaging. Do all the packages have this like
the hang tab?
The hang tab? Yeah.
Yeah, mine is still down. It was never hung. It's still like in its original packaging. Speaking of which, Chris, do you know what element is missing from your box? You have the cloth map, you have the manual, you have the game. What are you missing?
The puppet?
The puppet was not included.
That was the second one. The second game?
It was a pre-order for the second one.
Yeah. No, I don't know what I'm missing.
The little plastic bag that used to contain the map.
The little plastic bag. Wow, do you still have yours?
Of course.
Okay.
I still have mine.
Good.
The question is that. So, Silhouette, Mirage, Raystorm, Ray Crisis, Thunder Force 5, all those products on PlayStation felt special. Lunar 2, Eternal Blue, and 2000 was their magnum opus, but the packaging for the original Silver Star Story Complete felt significantly advanced from every other game out there. It's a giant box, and on the front cover, we didn't talk about that. Once you loosen the Velcro, the front cover flipped over to detail all the shit that was in the box. Folded cloth map with plastic bag, double CD jewel case of Lunar, 2 discs for the game, along with a PlayStation formatted making of disc and a CD soundtrack for a total of 4 discs. Chris, 4 discs meant good on PS1.
Yes. It's an adventure of a lifetime.
It got out of hand when Alundra and Elemental Gearbolt had variant game disc art, forcing collector-pilled psychos to get a hold of multiple versions of the same game for the sake of completing a library. I also think what Brennan and Victor talked about in that 2005 GameSpot interview is extra true now. Never mind the absurd special editions of games from the mid-aughts, just look at any of the limited run game releases available now. It feels like there's always some kind of insane special edition available if you have a special amount of money to buy it. Everything has its own equivalent of a cloth map. Without working designs, I don't know that you would be able to buy a version of Windjammers that comes with an actual flying power disc, or a version of Plumbers Don't Wear Ties that comes with a tie-in novel written by Mike Drucker.
Oh, okay.
We don't have to talk about the gold gun con and the Elemental Gearbolt Assassin case. We're here to talk about the rest of the shit inside the Silver Star Story box, which is a hardback 120-page manual along with a red ribbon bookmark. The manual also has character bios that we will read when the character is introduced in the game. There's also a section on translation notes. I've already inserted most of the interesting quotes into the parts of this episode, but something I'll always appreciate, and this is in a lot of Working Designs manuals, is the specific translation notes section on page 82 and 83. Victor, I assume, talks about all the stuff Working Design specifically added to the game, like second controller support and memory card saves. He also discusses the links they went to get the bonus products right, like the best materials to make all the shit out of. He also makes notes of why character vocal samples were not included when you view the bromides. He got very specific. There's also, the last 40 pages of the manual is a sampler of the official strategy guide, along with a warning that unauthorized guides not only won't have official art, but a bunch of stuff will be wrong because they're based off Japanese versions of the game. Finally, we have the making of Lunar disc in that package. The translation notes claims the video was edited down from 30 hours of footage. The runtime is 52 minutes, and obviously now it's all on YouTube at this point. It's dubbed and not subbed for Japanese speakers. The actual documentary is 28 minutes, with the remainder of the runtime being composed of audio and video outtakes from the recording sessions. Shit like this absolutely did not exist for console games or any game. Did you ever watch that disc?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this was even before DVD special features, right? Like
this is before DVDs.
Yeah.
There was Laserdisc at that point, and I think those had some commentary tracks.
Yeah, so it felt extremely unique because of that.
Yuichi Miyagi is interviewed on that disc, and I have one quote from him here where he says, "Games with good stories can't be made without CD-ROM."
Yeah.
Is that true?
Still to this day, yes.
Yeah.
I guess so.
There's a strategy guide. It's immensely detailed. Did you ever get a copy of that, or you just got the PDF?
I have the PDF. I couldn't find a copy.
In addition to the usual character bios, maps, and bestiary, there are anime checks that tell you what happens in every anime cutscene.
Yeah.
Story checks that make sure you're understanding the story with some recaps, and retro checks that tell you about divergence points from the Sega CD game, like when Royce and Fascia are introduced, or the amount of money Dross gives you for the Dragon Diamond.
Yeah, I think that stuff has a significant amount of value.
Yeah.
Just being able to know that, especially back when the internet was less sophisticated.
The tone of the guide, the vibes you may say, are nearly identical to the tone of the game. We'll probably reference it in the show or not, but to give you an idea, when I opened it up, the first story check section I saw was titled
Nash and Royce, a bumpin' uglies.
I flipped a few more pages and found one titled
Kyle probes the bush. Alex pitches a tent.
I flipped a few more pages and found one called
Oh, sweet nudity. How I love thee.
And that section explains how you can watch either Jessica or Mia take a bath with a soap item.
Oh, soap.
They also make a Wayne's World swing reference. Finally, I won't tell you what it's about, but I can't wait to get to the part of the game titled
The KKK Took My Magic Away.
One more thing. Chris, do you know about Lunar Silver Star Story Complete Fan Art Edition?
Fuck no.
It's a 2002, this is the last thing I added to this note. It's a 2002 reprint of Silver Star Story Complete for PS1, but it ditches everything but the double CD jewel case and 2 game discs. It's called Fan Art Edition because the discs feature the art made by a Lunar fan named Armin Martiosian. There isn't a specific price charting listing on eBay, but when I searched, I could find it complete for $150. This goes to show you that rarity is not always a reflection of value. Anyway, at some point, Armin sent an email to LunarNet describing how the entire process went about, and it features his original work before it was pressed to a disc. If you're curious, please visit LunarNet and check that interview out. Hacks and mods.
Hacking.
First off, we have the 2017 Lunar the Silver Star Unworked Designs patch by S.C.R.O.T.A.L. This is for the original Sega CD version.
Love supper more than I love dinner.
Me too. The hack, as best I can tell, please correct me, keeps most of the English script but removes all of Working Design's controversial gameplay changes. Basically just the opposite of all the cut content we just said. Also, all the text has been converted to mixed case instead of all caps, because if you play the Sega CD version, the text is caps locked the entire time. Like the Sega CD version, the Silver Star Story Complete on PlayStation also got its share of elite hacks. Hacker alias Supper also completed the Unworked Designs hack in April of 2017. Again, I have all this listed, but it's basically the opposite of what we just did in cut content.
Right.
There's also the Lunar Silver Star Story Complete Classic Controls mod, which is optionally included, that swaps the button layout for circle and X. And you can skip movies with the tap of the O button in case you want to skip those films, Chris.
I don't skip films.
In March 2023, the PS1 Silver Star Story Complete undub patch hit 1.0. It was released by Ryle Fury. Chris, what's an undub patch?
That's when you take the dub out, restore the original Japanese, and then subtitle and localize the dialogue. I believe that there is a Xenosaga Episode 1 undub patch out there somewhere.
Correct. This version, this hack, also has a North America, Japan difficulty option added to the menu. The undub at ROM hacking was at romhacking.net, but that site's kind of fucked now. With a bit of internet searching on the internet, you can find an already patched ISO of the undub at a place where optical discs become romantic. Let's see, there's also a French undub patch. And finally, the Saturn version of Silver Star Story Complete has an English text hack. Starting around 2013, Trekkies Unite 118, Mr. Conan, Ms. T, and Alunis Sage were responsible for hacking the Working Designs PlayStation script into the MPEG version of the Sega Saturn game. Apparently, the FMVs retain the English dub, but everything else uses the original Japanese voice acting. It also works on the non-MPEG version. The patch hit 1.0 in 2022 and was finalized by one of the undisputed masters of retro hacking, Derek Pascarella, in 2023. Memories. Chris, how did you come to Lunar?
Well, Eric, this is a long and twisted path, so please bear with me here. Have you ever heard of a website or a internet architecture called battle.net?
Yes, that is the Diablo original website where you linked up to play Diablo 2?
Yeah, it was like, well, it was a whole client in itself. You could link up to play Diablo, StarCraft. They eventually released a Warcraft 2 battle.net edition. But anyway, I used to be part of a BattleNet group called the Mogers Ogres.
Okay, is that like a racist thing now? Do I have to bleep that?
No, there's an ogre in the Warcraft lore named Moger.
Okay, that's good.
And we called ourselves the Mogers Ogres because we thought it was funny.
It's a pretty good word. It's great. I like the way it comes out of your mouth.
It was a magical time in my life, except for like when my mom would pick up the phone and like disconnect the internet.
Yeah.
And I couldn't play with my friends anymore. It sucked.
Mom fucked my life up.
So one time, me and my guildmates had some beef with this guy named Psychopath Guy.
That's his hacker alias?
Yes. And he was from Canada, I think. If I'm
like
not...
all psychopath guys, am I right?
Yeah, but after we had some skirmish, this was in Diablo 1. We had some skirmishing, trying to hunt each other down and stuff. And eventually we became good friends, and he became a member of the Mogers.
Oh, wow. Nemesis was adopted into the group.
Yes. Later, we ran into this other guy. You know what his name was?
Fucker Wad.
Psychopath Guy.
Okay.
So we're like, this guy's got the same name as him. Let's go fuck with him.
Are you sure it's not just him LARPing as somebody else?
No, because he was on. We were on at the same time.
All right.
Yeah. And he became our enemy. We hunted him down and tried to murder him. He tried to murder us, etc.
Hold on. What are the odds of finding two psychopath guys out in the wild? Was he also from Canada?
It was no, actually no. There's more on him later. So, like Goku, we later made friends with him. You know, you make friends with your enemies like Goku does, right?
Oh, of course,
and then
right, yeah.
They joined the team, right? And so we called him for short PPG2.
All right.
Psychopath Guy 2, right?
PP, yeah.
Yeah, his name was Pete, and he was from New Jersey, right? He was one of my early internet friends, right?
Yeah. We all have early internet friends.
He was my first exposure to the term scene kids.
Oh,
yeah, I had to go back and remember what a scene kid was. And
the scene kid is cooler than you. I'll say that.
Yeah, I think a scene kid is a mixture of like goth and anime, right?
That's passable, sure.
Okay, I guess.
At the time, yeah.
Anyway, at some point in time, this guy invited me to join another internet service called MPlayer. Are you familiar with MPlayer?
I'm not.
Okay, MPlayer was a free online PC gaming community where you could go and link up and play like casual games, like card games and shit. But you could also like link up and play Quake, Command and Conquer, etc. It was like a matchmaking
non-Blizzard stuff.
Yes, it was one of the first actual free services that you could do online. I think there was like some sort of You Don't Know Jack game on there too, and they had these little communities. There was voice chat too, which was pretty novel.
Yeah, for that time. Absolutely.
I think eventually they got bought out by GameSpy, if you're familiar with
GameSpy. That ran up through 2009 for internet service like that.
So anyway, my psychopath guy too, his name on mplayer.com was Null Z.
Okay, I see where this is going,
Null Z, as we will now refer to him, told me about this magical adventure of a lifetime that he had back when he had his Sega CD.
Okay, so he had prior knowledge of Lunar.
Yes. And how it was like, there's a remake coming out for the PlayStation 1. This is the greatest story ever told and the greatest video game.
He's hyping it up.
Of all time.
Just like the ad copy said.
So I believed my friend there and I went to the local GameStop,
Babbage's software
EB
set.
Games.
We didn't have GameStop until mid 2000s.
EB Games.
We had it was called Electronics Boutique.
Electronics Boutique. I think it was Electronics Boutique, and pre-ordered that, received the demo disc, and then began to spread the word of Lunar Silver Star Story to our friend group as well. I know we had a lot of friends who played it, so that's how I got to it, Eric.
Wow.
Null Z.
I have a different version of the exact same story.
Okay, tell me.
Lunar Silver Star Story Complete was my 4th ever role-playing game.
Wow, 4th ever?
Number 4. Do you remember, like, where did it rank in yours? Can you, like, approximate that?
Okay, let's go. Dragon Warrior, Final Fantasy. Then there's a big gap to Final Fantasy 3, Chrono Trigger.
You did 3 before 2? 4 before 6?
Yes. All right. For some reason I had a gap in that. Earthbound was somewhere in there. Final Fantasy 7, Final Fantasy Tactics. This is maybe only 8 or 9 for me.
Okay, that's still pretty good.
Oh, no, Chrono Cross wasn't out yet. So yeah, this is probably less than 10. So
I did Panzer Dragoon Saga in May of 98, Final Fantasy 7 fall of 98, Xenogear spring of 99, and then Lunar at its launch in summer of 99.
Yeah, I missed Xenogear. Xenogear was on there too.
Pack it in. That summer was the last summer where I didn't have a job. It was between my sophomore and junior year of high school, and I spent what I felt like all of it playing Ridge Racer Type 4, Super Smash Brothers, Air Guys, God Bless the Ring, and also GoldenEye and some WCW NWO games. All until Final Fantasy VIII and Grandia dominated my free time that fall, but that summer was for Lunar. I first heard about Lunar on AOL's gaming message boards, the antagonist group, which only like me and 9 people on the internet have any memory of, despite the fact that in my memories it was massive at the time. AOL keyword ant.
Welcome.
I hung out in the Final Fantasy VII discussion one board. I was a reg there, Chris. Do you know what a reg was?
Is that like the norm?
A regular.
Norm, like from Cheers, like Norm. He's always there.
You can't make a Norm reference on me, man.
Why?
I haven't watched Cheers.
Oh.
Sorry.
Okay.
Just someone who has like the respect of being like in the club.
Yes, yes.
I'm not new here. I know what's going on. I know at least 10 usernames by heart.
Mm-hmm.
There was another reg there who came along the same time I did, winter of 1999. His screen name, which I still remember, was AOL hacker alias Dragon1258.
Oh, wow.
Not quite null something, but still, ostensibly Lunar related, perhaps. He's still my friend today. His name's Michael. His SIG, his forum signature as I remember it, was usually hyping up the impending release of Lunar Silver Star Story Complete. Like whenever there was some update from Working Designs, he knew about it and promoted Lunar in his SIG. Did you ever have to deal with message board signatures, Chris?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I can't remember any of my good ones, but
that just seems like something that would be alien. Like imagine signing off your Facebook or Twitter or whatever post with the exact same fucking shit every single time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's still email signatures.
Yeah, but like most email services will like gray that out, won't they?
Yeah, that's true. They do now. Yeah.
Later, I would find out that he had a Sega CD in Eternal Blue as well. He knew about Dragon Force and Shining Wisdom on Sega Saturn. In an age when I was completely tasteless and lost in the woods, all I knew was Sonic, Mortal Kombat, and NBA Jam.
The
Holy Trilogy?
The 3 Lords of Hell.
He's on fire. In any case, Michael spread the good word of Working Designs and sold me on Lunar. Few other people on the boards had a Sega CD or Saturn. Most of the posters there were all predictably Super Nintendo kids. But Michael's humor, which didn't seem too dissimilar from Lunar's humor, made Silver Star Story Complete an easy choice for my summer JRPG of 99. Before Lunar, I don't know that I had played a video game that tried to be funny on purpose. And yeah, Lunar easily met my expectations. I loved the localization. I thought it was hilarious when I was 15, and it succeeded at creating endearing characters out of RPG archetypes. It was only my second RPG where the characters had portraits, and my first RPG with regular voice acting in English.
I think all that holds true for me as well. Like, I loved the localization. I thought it was funny that there was a Bill Clinton joke on there. It was like, games can't do this.
Yeah, like games. This felt like it should have been illegal or something. Like, are they allowed? Is this allowed to happen? Yeah. So the terrifying irony in all this, I was talking about this with Michael recently, and he was like, I didn't like Silver Star Story Complete, right? Like, it came out and he didn't like it. He preferred, like, I thought he loved it. That was just my headcanon. But he preferred the Sega CD original by miles, which encouraged me to play it as part of the season.
Interesting.
Anyway, as far as the game, my outstanding memories are the introductory sequences with Galleon. We have to talk about that because we'll do it now. I had a fucking friend. He pronounced it Gay Leon, and we thought that was so fucking funny that, like, I said it in my head so many times, it just became what I said now.
Gay Leon.
Even though they say Galleon in the fucking game.
Yes.
So, like, now, just by instinct, we just saw, I say Gay Leon.
Was he the same guy who said Lunar?
That's a good question. We'll talk about that, too. Anyway, I remember the save point between the fire at the Bronze Dogs battle and the vile crustacean fight in Vain, which was the most times I've ever fought anything in any RPG, including Souls games.
Yeah, Bronze Dogs were the one for me. Like, I have memories of the surrounding environment from when I was playing or trying to beat the Bronze Dogs.
Like, it was like in between two columns of fire in my head. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but I remember being very red.
It is. No, I'm talking about like where I was sitting.
Where you were sitting, yeah.
Yes, like my actual environment and where I was playing the game at. And my other real specific memory, and maybe you'll get to this in a second, but my other specific memory is like the moments that lead up to the ending and how that scene was directed.
I got nothing.
And we'll talk about it when we get there. And that's why I'm very, very curious to hear what were the working designs changes to the ending. So
yeah, I want to spoil it, but I won't.
But the way that scene was directed, like, it sticks with me. And whenever I see something that is directed in a similar way, I think about Lunar.
Yeah.
And when we get there, I'll point it out.
Organizing a 16-bit cutscene as far as character motion was still, I think, primitive at this time.
Well, I disagree a little bit with that because I think
I'm sorry, Final Fantasy VI happened. You're right.
Yeah, Final Fantasy VI and Chrono Trigger did a pretty good job of it too. They had big sprites. This game doesn't do that, but I'm specifically talking about the direction of the anime cutscene.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean.
And the moments leading up to it.
I also played a shitload of Lords of Lunar, the 8-player Lunar-themed Warlord-style game that's hidden on the making of Lunar Disc.
What? No. What? Huh?
You have no idea what this is?
No.
Do you know what Warlords is?
No.
It's like multiplayer Pong, where you play like fucking original video game ever Pong with a ball bouncing around. But Lords of Lunar, everybody up to 8 people have their own like breakout fortress that you have a little bumper and you play ping pong with like 8 people at the exact same time.
I think they have that at Dave & Buster's now.
Yeah, I mean, Warlord, yeah, most likely. It's like one of those giant games.
Yeah.
Chris, I bought a multi-tap for that specifically so we could play with more than 2 people. I brought the making of Lunar Disc in my PS2 on spring break with my girlfriend and our other friends. The 5 of us played it at our hotel room in Gatlinburg, and it was awesome.
Wow.
I was very cool and popular in high school and also now.
You're the only person to ever do that in the entire state of Tennessee.
Maybe Tennessee, but other people in the real net know about Lords of Lunar.
Yeah, good.
It's been played by more than 7 people. But yeah, I played Silver Star Story once, and I completed it once in the same deal with Eternal Blue and Grandia when those came out in the next year. Specifically, I remember Nash hearing Check This Out. Over and over again, along with Jessica's Althena, Give Me Your Power.
Yeah.
And also, we referenced it a bit, Lunar versus Lunar.
Yeah.
I have heard people tell me that Victor Ireland is fucking crazy and it should just be Lunar.
Yeah.
But I'm still going to say Lunar because that's how it's been said in my head.
You know why it's Lunar?
Why?
Because it's a noun.
Instead of Lunar, which is not a noun?
Yes.
That's a good point. That doesn't make any goddamn sense, but sure, I'll buy it. Fucking hell. Also, as we referenced it, Galeon versus Galleon.
Yeah.
That's poisoned me. We also had, I'm not even going to give you the context, but we used to talk about our own 4 heroes.
Yeah.
Like who would be on our team? Like what 4 heroes of myth and legend of real life would like compose our Dragon Masters?
Yeah.
It became a mini game for just idle discussions. Looking at my save screen on my old memory card, the final pair of saves are at something called, well, I'm not going to say what it's called, but I'm level 45, 22 hours, and 23 minutes.
Wow.
So that's how long it took me to beat the game the first time. Chris, how are we playing this game in 2024?
On a PlayStation. I'm playing it. I'm using the Duck Station, using a disk image that I retrieved from my disk here in my hand to play the Working Designs version of the game.
I am playing the unworked designs hack of Silver Star Story Complete through an X-Station optical drive emulator on original PlayStation hardware, upscaled to my television through a RetroTink 4K. Chris, usually we divide, like in the example of Star Ocean, you played the remake while I played the original.
Yes.
Why?
And Final Fantasy Tactics as well.
And Tactics as well, yeah. Why are we both primarily playing the PS1 version?
I think it was more of like a gut feeling decision here. Like it feels like that having a unified experience while talking about the other versions of the game in the periphery or like as a footnote to a section would probably make this podcast flow better.
I think that is primarily it, so we can be on the same page. And I also think that this is the version most people listening to this will have the most nostalgia for.
I agree with that too. Yeah.
I don't think, there is some obviously out there for Harmony and Sega CD, but not quite as much.
Yeah.
Also, I tried to do this, but it's just not time feasible. I was going to play Sega CD at the same time, but instead I'm going to flip through Nintendo Complete's run of the Sega CD original on YouTube, as well as Super S.C.R.O.T.A.L Gaming's no commentary long play of Silver Star Harmony on PSP. So I take my own notes and then I'm watching their videos and seeing what's different because both of them talk to a lot of NPCs. And of course, we're going to credit them at the end of every episode.
Okay.
What are we counting?
Well, Eric, to honor the legacy of Working Designs for conditions under which that probably... What? You read this. I don't know what the fuck it says.
To honor the legacy of Working Designs for conditions under which that probably aim what the original script had in mind, for unregulated and avoidable horniness or that which quivers the edge.
Let me jump in here. To honor the legacy of Working Designs for conditions under which we suspect a line of dialogue probably wasn't in the original script, or when we observe unregulated and avoidable horniness, or sense anything that quivers the asshole, we're calling it S.C.R.O.T.A.L.
That's right, and S.C.R.O.T.A.L stands for Script Corruption Regarding Ostentatious Tactless Acute Lewdness. These are all going to be mutually agreed upon vibes-based observations.
Okay, similar to the war crime counter from Suikoden.
Very similar. Whenever you see something that feels scrotal to you, we're going to identify it as being scrotal.
Once again, scrotal means script corruption regarding ostentatious, tactless, acute lewdness.
That's right.
Okay, I'm going to have to...
Based on the criteria outlined by the fake net.
Yes.
Check this out.
We're also going to count the fat-phobic jokes made at Ramus's expense.
Yep.
These are objective, not vibes-based. This can't last the whole game for reasons we'll get to, but I was shocked at the number of times this happens in the early games. We must observe and report.
The Ramus fat-phobic comments counter.
I also, and I know this is more things to count, but there's a lot of drunk guys in this game. We're going to count drunk guys.
Drunk guys. Okay. Yeah, there are a lot of drunk guys. Do you think how many of the drunk guys are actually drunk guys, or they were working designs into being drunk guys?
So can they be drunk and scrotal?
It's possible.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I don't know. I mean, there's instances where there's motherfuckers passed out like next to a bar.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, he's drunk.
I'm very drunk indeed.
Oh, God.
Well, Eric, thank you for preparing this long, extensive document about all this fun stuff that we've been talking about for the past hour and 18 minutes or so. Before we get out of here, let's do something that we like to do at the end of every episode, and that's consult the RealNet.
Initializing RealNet.
Hi, RealNet. Jesse says Elemental Gearbolt is fun.
It is fun. It will be difficult for us to stream that. It will require some prep work, but I theoretically think it's possible to stream it with both of us with light guns. I have 2 gun cons.
Okay. Monsieur Shock says, one time as a kid I rented Silent Hill 3 and got so scared I went back to the rental store to switch it up. A year later, I bought the game and now it's one of my favorites.
That's interesting, to be like scared out of playing a game, like not say this game's bad or I can't play it, be like this is too much for me.
That's really like the rental or the 7-day return policy.
Oh, for EB. Okay, yeah.
That's why that came up. Jesse says Detonator Gauntlet has Beasterizer energy.
Beasterizer, the original name for, of course,
animal fighting game.
Bloody Roar.
Thank you. It was gone.
Animal fighting game. Primal Rage.
John Doe says, making up an explanation for why a dude is living like a hermit and having it be that he smells like shit feels like a joke that would be in an official tie-in gag manga. Big fanfic energy.
I think it is debatable whether that's like fits in, but I think it's excessive.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll feel differently when we actually meet Might.
Neat says the Goemon game is pretty complete for the curious.
Yeah, it's out there. I think it boots on retail hardware.
Many people flabbergasted by the 45% higher attack rate.
Isn't that nuts?
Damage. Yeah. John Doe says these changes sound like the directive given was to make it twice as long to beat the game. But they didn't test the effects. They just doubled or halved a bunch of the numbers and called it a day.
Like the fallout on the stuff that we went over that were things just the unintended consequences, like they weren't as considered and refined as a game would get today if they were going to adjust stuff.
Yeah. Shazner says, get Chris some coffee. I'm sorry, I was fading a little bit. I took a nap today in preparation for this, but...
It's been a long day.
Yeah. Shazner says, is Cybermorph that Jaguar packing game?
Yeah, Cybermorph came with the Jaguar. It's the game that was infamous in GameFan because the guy who reviewed it, Dave Halverson, was allegedly dosed with LSD when he played it and wrote his review.
Where did you learn to fly?
WP says, post some stats from How Long to Beat and says the Sega CD version is 5 hours faster than the PS1 version.
I can believe that. The Sega CD version, we'll get to it, but like the Sega CD version is almost a different game, whereas the PSP version feels like someone riffing on the original game with the cheapest tools imaginable. I mean, the Sega CD version has goddamn random battles.
Yeah, I played a little bit at Mark's house during one of his get-togethers.
Wow, I forgot about that.
Yeah. Started from the beginning and got to the cave, and then I think I moved on. John Doe says, I love when games come with a paper map. Final Fantasy 1 had one as well. Ogre Battle came with a huge chart of all of the character classes and the stats that were needed to upgrade characters and stuff like that.
That stuff was for real helpful. Yeah. When they put it in the box and didn't make you buy Nintendo Power for it was good.
Shazner says the map that comes with Star Tropics also comes with a letter from your dad that you have to dip into water to get a secret code.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
That's insane.
Yeah, that's really cool.
No, it's not. If you rent it, you're fucked.
Well, I mean, it's just, Did you ever rent Metal Gear Solid and they had and somebody had written the frequency on the
disc or something?
They because it didn't come in the original case, it came in just like a generic, but they wrote the frequency code on there.
I mean, I bought that game day one, but I do remember Blockbuster would have their own like hand type manuals that would have stuff like that in there sometimes.
Yeah,
I don't know if that was a franchise-wide thing or if my store just had someone who was insane.
WP says Null Z is our next mystery, just like the person who had the save file on my Ogre Battle.
Yeah.
Amoeba.
Null Z, where are you today?
Null Z and Amoeba, gotta find them. John Doe says Galleon, pronounced like scallion. Yep.
Yeah. I'll try to do better. I'm sorry. I feel like I'm destroying my credibility with debuting Galleon with the Galeon.
Yeah. We didn't talk about this, but John Doe says I'm a big fan of being able to dodge battles in the Lunar remakes, honestly. Yeah, putting the enemies on screen does make some of the difficulty enhancements a little bit more tolerable because you can quasi-control how often you get into battle.
A little bit. There's some that are just by default an obligation.
You still have to do a lot of them, though, in order to proceed.
Just very briefly, that's why the PSP version is kind of fucked because the maps are way smaller and the sprites are way bigger, so you can't dodge anything.
Gotcha. All right, RealNet, thank you for joining us for this episode of Retrograde Amnesia. This podcast is a production of Retrograde Amnesia recorded on September 22nd, 2024. Thank you, Mark, for the intro music.
You're welcome, Chris.
Thank you, Steph, for the podcast artwork. Aiden, is there anything you'd like to share?
Hey, hi, this is Aiden Moher. You might remember me from previous episodes of Retrograde Amnesia, or my book, Fight Magic Items, or maybe my newsletter, Astrolabe, or that thing that happened in Eric's basement. Anyway, you can find me online by Googling my name or going to my website, aidenmoher.com. Thanks for having me, Chris and Eric, and sorry again about that thing.
You can reach us via email at podcast@retrogradeamnesia.com, on Twitter at retroamnesiapod, on YouTube, and of course on Patreon at patreon.com/retroam. Get ad-free episodes, bonus episodes, miniseries, and other fun stuff along the way. Eric, until next time.
Yes, we will kill the Magic Emperor.
And now you may go back to sleep.
I'll put that Aiden shit in up with Mark and Steph.
Mark and Steph.
Yeah.
Mark and Steph.
Hey, Chris, doing well. How are you?
Yeah.
Excellent. Chris is doing real good.
And in fact, John
Ricciardi.
In fact, John Ricciardi.
He had taste, Chris, in an age when I was as tasteless. In an age when I was as taste. What the fuck did I write?
I don't know. I'm reading it. I don't know.
In an age when I was
as shit.
Yeah. And I think we might be done with this episode.
How we're playing this in 2020?
Oh no shit! Fuck, we got a lot more.
Alex pitches a tent.
Armin Mardiarasan?
Sure.
Mardiarosian.
Who still call anime that Gauntlet is I'm cutting that. I can't think of anything. Go ahead.
So this next section, cutter adjusted content, we may just end up cutting this entirely if you think it's boring as fuck.
My favorite one is the Shannen Doherty.
Doherty.
I know who she is, but I can't say her name. My favorite one is the Shannen Doherty. What's her name?
Shannen Doherty.
Shannen Doherty is a way has been, so we have to take that out. Didn't she pass away recently?
Yeah, she died recently.
Okay.
You need to say that sentence again. You said way has been, not a way has been. I'm sorry.
These are very difficult to read. When I guess I should have
seen it before.
I should have prepared.
I didn't send it to you. It's my fault.
I wouldn't have done it. Some will be updated because there are some sort of time-sensitive jokes. My favorite one.
And then Working Designs tried to publish Growlancer 3 into Growlancer, and there.
When 200, I took out my nibble bones.
I spit on my paper. There's also a new
at patreon.com/retroam packing game.
I'm going to skip the prologue for the actual game.
Do we want to skip you mean save this part? Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Good. This goes to show you that rarity is not always a reflexive, it was released, it was a localized release of it was the localized.
This is Retro 02, right?
Yep. That would be corrected to.
I told you I'd give you a head start in the shipping game.
That would be corrected to. I told you I'd give you a head start in the game that shipped. Which again, working at Silhouette Mirage was 6 months. Also alterations.
Specific.
Working Designs troops.
Exactly. Yes.
It'd be like if I ran 35. Trim. I meant that as a compliment, by the way.
I don't think so. It's fine. It's a bit. I have if I can get through this. Fake Net, what are we counting for the first thing here? Aiden, are you working on anything? Aiden, are you working on anything?
How about Aiden, is there anything you'd like to share in case of the... All right.
Thank you. Is that it? I like farts.
Playtime's over!